This is Barbara the Barbarian, Chapter 5, Part 11. Through the city going to Ari's house. The group moved on for another 2 days. Barbara acclimated to the forest, and it was not as harrowing as she initially took it to be. Nancy could decode what the former captives were saying, and they were taken in a raid on their village and sold to these emissaries from a place called Pierce. After which, they approached the city. It seemed to be built with some sort of access to a river. The design was wood and rope. The city put her in the mindset of an old boomtown in the Old West, but seemed to be much more expansive and dense. There were high wooden gates where sentries sat with muskets. They wore simple clothes, possibly made with cotton of some sort. "Stop right there. What is your business, travelers?" they said. Nancy took the initiative and said,
"Looking for some guy called the Genius?"
The two sentries wore rough leather pants to complement their breathing cotton shirts. They looked at each other as if calculating what Nancy was asking. Vina spoke in her language, and the two sentries seemed to understand whatever she was saying. Barbara heard the sound of cranks, pulleys, and levers as the wooden door irked open slowly. One sentry abandoned his post to show them around. The half-dressed German women muttered to themselves, providing nonsensical chatter.
"What happened?"
Barbara asked Nancy.
"Vina got us in,"
said Nancy. If Barbara wasn't amongst strangers, she would have went off on Nancy. Her vague answers were starting to annoy her.
"What happened exactly?"
Barbara said, attempting not to show her anger in her voice. Vina spoke a bit. Some of the words she understood. Mating, sex, genius. Barbara took a shot in the dark and figured that the Amazons must have came to this place around mating season. At least, that seemed to make sense in her head when she thought it.
"She said,"
Nancy started to say before Barbara cut her off.
"I think I got that,"
said the Miss Fitness contender. They were led around the settlement for quite some time. They passed over wooden bridges and down paved cobblestone roads until they approached a small house that was slightly isolated, hidden by trees. Most of the homes they saw were very urban, meaning they didn't have much plant life to be tended, and it integrated with the city like a cell in the body. This wooden house seemed to be off on its own, as if separate somehow. There was a gate made of iron and well-maintained garden out front, in lieu of a lawn. It was dark outside, yet there was a light on inside. The sentry turned to the group as if he had parting words before he returned to his duties.
"The penalties for killing and robbery are hefty and well enforced. Please refrain from doing either,"
he said while shifting his old-timey musket over his shoulder. Barbara wanted to take a look at the weapon he wielded, but the time for asking to do so had passed. The sentry walked off to the gate entrance and watched to make sure they got into the house okay, but didn't seem as if he planned to do much more than that. Vina knocked on the wooden door. It didn't take but a moment before a fairly handsome, yet older man in his 50s appeared manically.
"Do I know any of you?"
he said urgently, as if he were in the middle of something and had to get back to it. Vina started talking, and the man instantly smiled as if he just noticed who she was amongst the crowd. The older man pushed open his door and stood aside to welcome the group inside. The older man looked at Nancy's dog with trepidation.
"Is that thing housebroken? I have a lot of delicate stuff going on in here,"
he said to Nancy.
"Yeah, my dog's got more manners than most people,"
she said. The old man eyed the dog harder, even though he eventually let them pass. The place was wooden, with many gadgets and curiosities hanging from the walls and ceilings. Books littered the floor, stacked in piles at random like little obstacles. There were electric lights that stuck out of huge contraptions all over the house that lit the place. Barbara noticed little design scrawls half finished on drafting tables, and there was an acrid, slightly burnt smell that hung in the air. Vina noticed books and wooden chairs and didn't hesitate to knock them onto the floor and give them to Barbara. Then to Nancy. The older man didn't seem bothered by the harsh treatment of his property and didn't really seem put off by Vina in the slightest. He moved a chair from a work table, the only chair that didn't have something on it, then slid it over to the others to confer with his unexpected guests. Vina and the old man spoke in the language of the Amazon. Barbara got tired of all this insider talk that was going over her head and said,
"You got a beautiful home, very Thomas Edison-y and all, but who are you and why are we here?"
The old man paused, then looked to Barbara.
"All right, we didn't do introduction. I'm Ari Binzen, inventor, historian, etc., etc., etc.,
said Ari, waving his hand as if to dismiss the various other titles he held that he had already grown bored of listing.
Vina tells me you fell from the sky as a prophecy, blah blah blah, etc., etc. So where are you from?"
Barbara squinted her eyes in confusion.
"I didn't fall from the sky, I just woke up and I was here,"
said Barbara, having heard this prophecy talk for the first time.
"So your memory isn't so good either, huh?"
said Ari.
"My memory is fine, I just didn't fall from the sky, I just woke up in the woods,"
said Barbara. Ari smiled a condescending smile as if she had definitely lost some portion of her memory, but was too proud to admit it.
"Well, you see, everything is a prophecy with the red stripe women. Don't feel as if there is anything mystical about it. They are a simple people. Beautiful, fit. Simple people, but simple. There is a scientific explanation for most everything I've encountered in the world, and to call anything magic or prophetic is merely the mark of an uninquisitive mind. There is some truth to what they say, though. There was an astrological event that happened when you surfaced. Comets hit Decian. Their origins unknown,"
said Ari.
"So is there any chance of maybe getting me back?"
Barbara said, already figuring that was more a flight of fancy than an actual possibility.
"Get you back? I don't even know where it is you come from. You can stay with me until I find a suitable hypothesis for all this,"
said Ari.
"How long is that going to take?"
Barbara questioned.
"I'm not going to lie to you. It could be some time,"
Ari explained in a somber tone. Look for Barbara the Barbarian, Phase 2. 1 year later. Like and subscribe.